Hello. Happy OPEX Friday, August OPEX. How's everyone doing today? Gonna be a little quicker live stream. You already know how I feel about OPEX days anyways. We've had monsoon since 10:30 last night. Two of my dogs and me have been up all night because of that. So we have lots of minor flooding, so I got to deal with some stuff this morning. But did not want to skip the live stream. Good morning, Kevin. Good morning, Patrick. Happy Friday to you. Thank you for watching also on Rumble. And that's a good call. No three mics this early in the morning. Don't watch on X2. Don't triple mic yourself. Good morning, Heinrich. Good morning, Sterling. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you have a wonderful day at work and your Friday goes well, Sterling. Good morning, John. Good morning, Jacob. Good morning, Rick. All right, so the gamma exposure for today's SPX are at 6450 and 6500. I'm actually targeting 6500. We'll see. SPX closed yesterday at 6468. Right now we're trading 64.99. There's 10 billion net gamma exposure at 6500 and 8.07 billion net gamma exposure at 6450. I'm really keeping an eye on that 6500 for my research. But again, we'll have to see, because if it does get pushed lower, I would pay attention to exactly what Sterling says at the 6450s. Although the 6500 is a very key magnet price. Thank you for putting that in, Sterling. Happy Friday. Wish our leaders the best today. Putin and Trump meeting in Alaska. Good morning, Daniel. Sunsets are coming earlier. Sunrise is coming later. Hello, Charles. Look at the retail sales ex auto, not great. And remember, it's not retail, it's not inflation adjusted. So that's with inflation. And the vehicle CPI component rose quite a lot in the CPIC. You're spot on, Charles. But it still was in line for most of it. And the prior retail sales were revised higher. Let's just look. Again, it wasn't really market moving. Expected 0.5 coming in at 0.5. Prior was 0.9. But the prior was also revised higher. Export price is 0.1. Import price is coming in at 0.4 for July. Consensus of 0. So you're bumping import prices too. New York State, we also had this Empire Manufacturing Index coming in 11.9 in expansion. There's your control group X autos 0.3, and given where he's completely right, given Charles is where the auto inflation came in, it is, you know what, it's not fantastic. But, you know what, it is what it is. What else do we have? What else do we have this morning? Really, we have, I don't know if this will be enough based off OPEX Friday. But we do have consumer sentiment and inflation expectations. So keep an eye on that at 10 a.m. That's the one thing that could tip it. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. What else do we have? Good morning, Anissa. Yes, those are for the cash settled SPX. How far off? Hold on. I'll get to that in a second. I've not looked at the difference, but it's not that far off. I mean, so if the futures are trading at 6,500, the cash is trading just under that. We'll take a look at the difference. Right now, it Applied Materials, which was a beat yesterday, but bad guidance and down 14%. And other semiconductor equipments like KLAC and LRCX also down. Intel off the news that the government could be investing. Who thinks government investing in private companies is a good thing? I just want to get the pulse of that. Also, UNH off the Buffett investment. Now, we talked about that. Remember, they are still under DOJ analysis. The Buffett investment he's been accumulating over the past couple quarters. So that came out, and you got the pop. Should you rush out and buy it? You still have a potential double bottom. I am watching for any pullback over the next little bit. You have the immediate Buffett pop, but that's generally not a V-shaped bottom. Just pointing that out. All right. So, groups. Let's just refresh this real quick. Groups. Healthcare with UNH leading, and Lilly is bouncing also, but Lilly will roll over again for another sell setup. We talked about that the other day too. Consumer cyclical, financial, energy lagging, technology lagging. Fed Watch still has roughly a 92% for the cut in September, and still three cut. Is it three or two at this point? Two cuts. Two cuts priced in. Two cuts priced in. Fear and Greed still solid in greed mode. Schiller PE almost over 39. Might hit over 39 today. So, again, nothing this morning in terms of earnings. We don't need to focus on that. All right, let's see. SPX. There's your SPX. 60. Well, we're just going to see where it's going to open. It's going to open 64.68 was yesterday's close. What was the close of the futures? The close yesterday of the futures was 64.90. So this is going to open up closer to the SPX is going to open up closer to 6,500. So the future will get above the 6,500. But there is also a key level if you're looking at options on the futures, just not just the cash, but options on the futures. There's also something right around. You can watch between 6,500 and 6,525. Okay, where do we sit now? All right, Sterling's. Jacob doesn't think government investing companies is a good thing. I don't either, Jacob. I don't either. Oh boy. Yeah, there's names for that, but let's just see. We do have still. I doubt it will trigger today. It's still technically there. So could it trigger next week? Yep. You see here, we're not beyond the 65.14. Now, if we go beyond 65.14.75, this will be off the table today. I'm just keeping an eye. We dipped down in the rotation zone yesterday. Any dips, we're holding the rotation zone. Even if we dip down a bit to 64.87, still going to be watching for potential key support there. There is the little mini double, maybe off the table by Monday. Maybe off the table. We'll have to see about that. But just for the point of clarity, I know where a key level is at least. If we did get the sell-off, I'd be shocked. I would be shocked if that triggered today. But you got to put it on the charts. You got to do your analysis both ways. So running back up, if we hold here slightly lower and bounce back up, again, I'm watching 6,500 to 6,508 and then 6,514. Is the next key area just based off of the harmonics. If you drop below 64.88, 64.87, 64.80 is another very key area of support. There's lots of support coming into this with expiration Friday. Yes, it was called corporatism. Very good. We got smart people on this channel. Very smart people. So that's why, you know what, it's not the biggest channel in the world, but we have people who really want to learn and are very smart. So I thank you all for tuning in to be a part of this. Again, that's what I'm watching. I'm not going to do stupid today, though. We finally closed, again, with a sideways flagging correction. We're down to the bottom of the rotation zone. We dipped through the rotation zone back to key support yesterday, this 23,800, and then bounced up. Again, on any dip, that's key support with the declining channel. If we rotate higher, I'm watching 23,961 and then 24K again going into the option expiration. There is no, this is a very, it's already a channeling double, so I'm not even going to put it on. It's technically, you could still look for it as a double. If it's still present on Monday, which it probably won't be, we'll put it on there. That's very just interesting how the world works. You know what? A curious mind is always a good thing. And, research and learn. May we also live in interesting times. So I'm seeing if this rotates back up again. We're at the bottom rotation zone. Even if we dip below it, 23.8 is major support, which was very key resistance multiple times. So that is a major support level should it break down at all. But I'm still looking for the rotation back up going in, especially towards the 24K. And you can even see the little channeling flag pattern on this. Dow with UNH leading. We have running up to a new high. A new high you can see here. Let's get up the weekly Dow. You can see here we're at a new high. This would not be a double top because this is a triple top. If the Dow breaks out, again, today's OPEX. But the next harmonics, 45, 670, and then major cluster, 40, 46, 200 area. The Russell also coming back yesterday to test the prior breakout level into the rotation zone and rotating back up. This is sort of a weak rotation back up. The key area I'm looking at for the Russell today is, again, you see how it stopped right at that 62.5. Technically a slight close above it on the 4 hour. Going to be watching that again, 23.18 area. On a pullback, I'm looking about 22.96. So VIX, we do have a little mini potential double bottom. That not for today, unless something shocking comes out. Not for today, but we'll be looking at this going into next week. It should still be present even after today, unless we really crushed volatility today. It should be present going into next week. So 1539, the VIX is key. The DAX, we teched off the 87.5 again. We are at cycle tops and getting overbought. So, but it's in same consolidation it's been in for a long time. Just not a lot of great setups besides scalpy setups in the DAX. Yields, again, potential double bottom going into next week. Potential double bottom going into next week. 4.312 on a yield basis, on a closing yield basis is key. All right. If consumer sentiment comes out wonky or inflation expectations, this could actually confirm today. We'll see. We will see. 30-year breaking above the declining trend line, a multi-touch declining trend line. So climbing back up. So I'm paying attention to this going into next week. Finally, we had that little pullback on Wednesday after the CPI numbers, but then we got PPI. We're going to have to see if this follows through today with this crude. We had the little percent B buy that closed yesterday into key resistance area and the 8 EMA. That's why if you try to take these, you have to be super nimble. Did I want to talk? Yes, I did want to talk about this. Because there were some key areas on this little run-up. And if you're going to play these against the rotation zone, this is what I want to show you. So, it broke out. This was the prior high area, all right, from Wednesday, which is the key point you're looking at. It broke above it, came back to support. Remember, we look at candle bodies. Came back with the rising 15-minute rotation zone. This was a really nice, good, decent entry for an intraday trying to see if, all right, if it's going to close above this high, let's run it up. Now, when we're going against the rotation zone, what I like to do is do stuff like this. First I put on the reverse harmonics like this to start raising stops. So it came up here, and then we go to the forward harmonics from the spike high. And then I like to unwind stuff going into key areas, and this did form a double top. So guess what? This formed a little mini double top. So once it started closing below this base, setting alerts, that's why it was lucky I was up. And start to break down, you start to unwind some of the key position. Okay, and at least get your stop more so to break even. But that is, we've talked about this kind of pattern before. You might not trade on the 15-minute. I'm just showing you how it works what kind of stuff I look for with percent B buys intraday. But against the rotation zone, I'm not looking to take a lot of risk, and it's pretty much it's done. It's already come back down below yesterday's high or Wednesday's high. So again, you can take something off, set that stop at break even, turn the rest into a break even scratch, and you're out. Do I want to, yeah, could this turnaround go back up? Do I want to deal with that? No, because the trend is still down. And I'm not going to leave a stop way below this bar when we're against the rotation zone. I'm just trying to take something out. If it followed through and did not trigger that double, then I'd still be in. But it rotated back down. So there's nothing going on. That's just a little tip right there. For neckline of no, I do not use after hours. I've talked about that before. Very good question, Daniel. I understand. You're talking about the corporatism thing and Intel. I understand why Trump wants to do it, but he should not do it. It would be a disaster. China and India put their thumbs on the scale to give their companies international advantages. Yeah. But, all right, and then what happens when Trump's, let's say we set this precedence. I don't want who's ever in charge of this country picking certain industries to invest our resources into and taxpayer dollars. Period. Don't want it. Do not want it. All right. Let's see. Gold. Gold. We do have a little mini potential double still on a daily basis. If this sells off, again, I'm watching closer to the trend line in the 50, as we talked about, and that double would be invalid. Again, we got cycles going down. We aren't yet oversold, so I'm being very patient with gold. Dollar index came up. Again, this is the same thing, little percent B buy against the rotation zone, rotating down. All right, if this starts closing below 62.5 and below this trend line, which it technically has not closed below the trend line, I don't want a thing to do with the dollar until we pull back. I'm keeping a very close eye on it, though, today. Because the trend line is technically held. We have a little mismatch of signals here. So, would I be in the percent B right now? No, but the technical invalidation stop is below the low from Wednesday. If it takes out the low from Wednesday, I'm targeting lower dollar prices in the short term to retest this big base. Euro, again, coming back, catching on the separating rotation zone, rotating back up. So just keeping an eye on that. Again, I'm letting currency settle out through expiration. Spiders, going to gap up today. This is more of a sideways channel than any double. Again, if it takes out anything in the short term, if we want to use the little minor harmonics for today, the little minor harmonics based off a 4-hour pausing bar, you got 64.99, 60. If that runs up that high, would be your minor. I'm paying attention to the futures. This was a sideways 4-hour correction, which favors still a break potentially higher. Qs, slight gap down today. The Qs, though, very key resistance. We're opening 579.73 area. Just above 581 is very key resistance. And then the gap open reversal. The gap open reversal from Wednesday. 582.76. Bitcoin breaking back below key support with an outside key reversal day. Hands off at Bitcoin for the moment until we get through at least this today. Exactly, David. Exactly. What are you agreeing 100%? The saying about interesting times is really a British diplomat in China expression for challenging, difficult. Do we want that? No. I don't want, but we live in interesting times. Daniel asking on Palantir. Okay, no, you still the double, which you can see here clearly in the 4-hour chart, the low is from the session hours only. So it triggered on the 4-hour. Today it is against the rotation zone, nearly hitting the first target. This is where if you're interested in this, coming back to the daily rotation zone, would not be shorting Palantir. And on a little mini 4-hour double, would just be watching for this for key pullback levels. But that's a very good question, Daniel. The after hours data and pre-market data, it made it too unreliable. Hey, Trade by Cam, thank you for tuning in. Yes, the Conservative Party is afraid to challenge him. Look at the weekly chart on Coin. Weekly chart on Coin. It's still holding the rotation zone. Those harmonics played out really nicely. Still holding the rotation zone, but it is below the trend line. You are completely correct, Sterling. Still holding. Guess what would be key? Guess what would be key would be this low right at the 50% harmonic, which is actually a pretty decent support level. But if that breaks, would not remain long on any bounce in Coinbase. Again, if I were going to remain bullish on this, which I'm not, it would have to get above 387.89 again. Even a pop back to 369, 368 area would be potentially, I'd be looking for another rollover play. But if this loses the rotation zone, not looking at it at all from the bullish side until a bigger pullback. It is broken below its trend line and is approaching from below something to see if it kisses goodbye or maybe sets up a potential double top. Yeah, I'm watching even before that. I'm watching this 368, 370 area right in here on any bounce. For that, we haven't covered this in a few days. Tesla does technically have a confirmed but not triggered double. This technically is a very sloppy double, confirmed, not even triggered on the 4-hour. Would I be aggressively shorting this? Not with the rising separating rotation zone just yet and all the Tesla pumps. But if you were looking for long pullbacks, again, there's still a gap left behind right in front. So, again, that would be pullback. So there's been too many pumps and too much option stuff going off in Tesla right now for any potential shorts. NVIDIA, not much to talk about here. Yes, you do still have a technically rounding out double. It has not been invalidated yet. Another thing to keep an eye on. Amazon with the announcement of same-day grocery delivery in a bunch of cities has popped. Setting up, again, just because it's a potential does not mean it ever has to trigger, but one side is near. You can see it clearly on the weekly. Now, it would also be below the weekly rotation zone. This may not trigger, but I am keeping a close eye if Amazon does roll over at this low price of $211.42. We also are trading against the 87.5 area and against the major top area, even if it rotates back a little higher. The only thing that invalidates this is really another one that's on my watch list. That's why I wanted to point it out, is if it goes to new highs. If it goes to new highs, you see where the harmonic is, it takes the potential double off the table. So if you're trading this from the long side, okay, because this is technically going to be a percent B buy week, it would have had to be traded intra-week against the last week's high, but is going to close with the percent beat buy. And what's interesting is the stop for the percent beat buy on the weekly basis is the same point as the trigger for the double. So if it continues up through next week, 239.67, and then the all-time highs. If it takes out the all-time highs, it doubles off the table, the percent beat buys followed through. But your stop's essentially the same place. It is exactly the same place, not essentially. All right, I went a little longer than expected. I have to jump into the open now. So I hope everyone has a wonderful trading day. We'll be back on Monday. Again, keep an eye on the 6450s and the 6500 key for the cash. As Sterling posted earlier, thank you for posting that, and I will see everyone next week. Bye for now.